other things I got, you know, kind of miscellaneously. So that's what this month's video is. So stay tuned for the rest because, oh boy, we had some treasure. But on to this. This particular video, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do, like, let's call it a package sandwich. We've got one at the beginning, one at the end, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. So we'll start it off with this first package. This one was sent to me by a company called MoveSpeed, and I'll be completely honest with you guys, I had never heard of these guys until a couple of months ago. They sent me a message, and I think, and I said this at the time, I don't totally know where these guys came from, but I think what they did is at some point they must have actually seen my travel channel and kind of concluded, since I film all my stuff on my phone, I was probably suffering from data issues, as in not having enough storage, and migrating all that stuff to my computer would probably be a pain, and they were right. So they actually sent me this a while ago, and you know, I just kind of casually talked about it. It's like the MoveSpeed 512 portable SSD for my phone. This was one of those things where once I had it, I realized I can't function without it. And anybody who's hung out with me since then is like, oh, that's what that thing is, because they've always seen it. No joke, I use this all the time. It's got a magnet, it connects to the back of my phone, it links up, and then when I'm filming all the footage on the road, as I often do, I can move it to this easily. So I kind of thought that's where it would all end. But they reached out and they're like, hey, we have another thing we think might actually help you with that, so we're gonna send it your way. So I'm, to be honest, very honest with you, I'm very excited about this because I think this will actually make my life even easier. If you're not a YouTuber, you don't understand the pain of the post-production process, like truly. So having something like that that cuts out hours of effort, unbelievable. Saving me the effort of moving footage from my phone directly to the computer, like this little middle step, it saves me so much time. So in that vein of logic, MoveSpeed sent me something else. And again, full disclosure on this, they did send this to me for free for the purposes of review. And I will put a link in the description. You can pick this up. I think they're even providing coupon codes. If you're interested in it, you can save a bunch of money if you want to get it. Obviously, that's up to you. But the links are down there. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let's rip it open. There we go. Inside, it's just a single item. This is the dual port USB flash drive Type-C 256 gigabyte device. So basically what these guys are doing is, I guess, I mean, I'm no expert on this, but I guess SSD technology is getting a lot cheaper, logically so, particularly with the, let's say, smaller allotments. But they're basically taking that tech and they're putting it, and they're kind of repurposing it in other mediums. So, you know, just historically, something like a flash drive wouldn't need to be, you know, like 14 terabytes or whatever. But if you can basically make a flash drive that's using SSD tech and cheaper, smaller allotments of that, then you kind of really have something. That's effectively, from my understanding, what this basically is. So let's open it up and take a look at it. I might have to, oh, no, it just kind of slides through the side. And then inside we have the main piece. Comes with a little cable there. We've got some extra padding, and below that it's just like a little instruction book. There's really not much to it, just MoveSpeed, it's in English and all that. It just really, whatever. The main piece is what we care about. So here it is. It's just a flash.
Round one. Ready, go! Knockout! Round two. Ready, go! Knockout! Round three. Ready, go! Yeah! Come on! Knockout!
Or at least that's what it appears to be. But the big deal here is it's 256 gigabytes, and it on one end has a USB-C port, and then you press this button and it flips over to a USB-A 3.0 specifically. Well, probably 3.1 actually. No, it says USB 3.2, so it's actually 3.2. The case is metal, I can tell, and it's got this cool, like, you know, wristband deal. Yay, that's not dangerous. But anyway, why is this so exciting to me? To tell you the truth, this is a perfect medium device. So for my purposes, and if you're not a YouTuber, there's other use scenarios, obviously. Anybody out there is going to have I mean, we're all nerds. That's why you're watching the video. I hate to break it to you, you're a nerd. But you're going to come up with some sort of reason why you would need something like this. So in my case, where this is actually particularly useful, is because it's got USB-C on one end, I can plug this into my phone, basically integrate footage from my phone onto this device, and then as soon as it's disconnected, I flip it over to USB-A, plop it into my computer, like just link, and then boom, I can move footage over. Like even this device, as great as it is, does still require a separate USB-C connection, so the device itself requires a cable. This does not. Now granted, this has 512 gigabytes of storage, this does not. This has 256, but that's still quite useful. Other use case scenarios that I can think of that are interesting to me, at least, is, you know, you can store videos on this. Like if I wanted to make a whole bunch of like digital backups of either my own videos or other content, you know, movies on the go, whatever it is, things I've spent a lot of time on airplanes. Storing stuff on this, I could just kind of connect it to my computer, put anything I want on there, flip it over to this side, connect it to my phone, watch that on the go. Or if you format it to something like, you know, for your PC or for your Xbox or whatever, you could do the same thing. Plop videos on it, then connect it to your Xbox and watch whatever you want on there. You could think of it as a nice physical way to archive a whole bunch of digital pure content. Now, as awesome as it is to talk about stuff that makes my life a lot easier on the channel, let's talk about some video games, because not just tech stuff, although we'll get back to tech, because I bought some cool things too. Before I went to Japan, I actually was out in California for a week. I was out in Los Angeles, and then from there I went up to San Francisco, more accurately Modesto, to hang out with my buddy Jesse and just kind of do the West Coast thing. And while I was there, he took me to, I think it's the only store in Modesto, California that is like a retro game store. It's run by a buddy of mine named Jared. I believe it's called Laughing Crow Collectibles, and while I was in there, I was hanging out with some other YouTubers, and we made videos and stuff, and I don't think, none of that stuff really is going to appear on my channel, because I didn't really film much in there, but at the same time, it was just fun to do that whole thing. And we hung out there all day. It's just one of those days where it's like, let's all hang out in a retro game store, and it was just, I'm sure a lot of you have done that. It's fun. That said, I did end up buying a couple things, and Jared got me a pretty good deal. So here's the stuff I picked up. First and foremost, for the Nintendo GameCube, in case you don't know, with the GameCube, my goal is a full set minus all the titles that appeared on the original Xbox, which substantially truncates that library. And then when I say full set, I mean, you know, the North American ones, plus the European exclusives. That one I've actually finished, that subset. Plus all the Japanese exclusives. That one I'm close. I'm only like 3 away. But the American stuff I'm oddly very far off on, just because I never put much effort into it, because I'm like, I live in the US, I'll get around to it. Whereas, you know what I mean? It's that kind of motivation. Now that said, I did pick one up. This game is nothing special. It's just something I needed for the set. It was there and it was cheap. Disney's Party. Oh boy, it's my party. I own all of you. Yeah, that's obviously Mickey. Basically, it's just Mario Party, but with Disney characters. So, yeah. But, yeah, it was just good to get off the list. It's not one of... There are a few of those Disney games on the GameCube that are annoyingly expensive that, unfortunately, I don't own. I don't remember if it's, like, Disney's Basketball or Disney's Football or whatever it is. Some of those are just a pain. But this one was not, so it's just a little check mark on the list. But, speaking of other franchises I own, for the Xbox 360, Spider-Man 3. Yes, I'm Mickey, own Spider-Man. Contrary to popular belief, Sony doesn't actually own Spider-Man. They own his movie option, but they don't own the character. But, that said, this is from a different era. The Xbox 360 version of Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire movies, it's funny, I never had this game. I have the first two on the original Xbox, and we've kind of entered a phase where Spider-Man games really don't appear on Xbox hardware anymore. They pretty much just stick on PlayStation.
Go!
Not because Sony owns Spider-Man, it's mostly because they want to keep it there for that marketing reason.
Knockout!
It doesn't matter. Like the whole long-form story. But that said, these games are usually pretty good. Activision back in the day put a lot of effort into these. despite them being a movie tie-in. But that's the thing. This is a game that's going to live and die on that generation. Like, they are never
Excellent!
because it's a movie tie-in game for the PS3, obviously,
Round 3.
and the 360.
Ready, go!
So, like, yeah, you're never going to see this game reissued again. So, I was like, then Spider-Man price. So, this one had not. It was still sitting there relatively cheap, and I was like, that's fine. I pulled the trigger. So, as far as games go, that's all I got from there, but that's not the end of things I got. I like my oddities. I like my oddball weird items. As I said, I do like stuff like this that has some sort of practical application, but I also like stupid things that don't have a practical application that are just kind of in support of something I enjoy. So, that said, when I was in Jared's store, Laughing Crow Collectibles, I saw this item behind glass, and I was like, that is cool. And I'm probably the only person that's going to be kind of interested
Round
in that.
1.
That's, so, you know,
Ready,
whatever. And
go!
once I picked it up, Jared said the same thing. He was like, that thing has been there for years, and no one has ever even asked about it. It is a promo item for the Nokia N-Gage.
Excellent!
This is a t-shirt, believe it or not. All bundled up. It has never been opened. It's going to stay that way. I have no desire to open it. And it's in the
Round
form
2.
factor of the original
Ready,
model of the N-Gage.
go!
Lower flap there in the center. Yeah, I've never done a full video on the N-Gage. I will at some point. Because, I don't know if you guys know my buddy Rewrite, Shane Lewis.
Knockout!
Who has a very great channel that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, though. He did a whole video on the history of the N-Gage. I'm actually in that video
Round
for one
3.
reason, which
Ready,
is I am one
go!
of like the 12 people ever who had an N-Gage when it was actually commercially relevant. I've never made a video talking about that. I will at some point. The N-Gage kind of has a soft spot in my heart as a result of that. Also, I basically have a full set for it. I'm only missing one game. For years, I thought I had a full set, and it was fellow YouTuber, and I don't actually mean any animosity here. I'm just making a joke. But it was Pete Dorr. Curse you, Pete Dorr. he kind of screwed up my full collection vision because for years I thought I had a full set. I was one day watching one of his videos and he pulled up this one game that I thought had never been released called Warhammer something or other. And as soon as he had that, I was like, oh, I know I don't have that. Oh, and suddenly my full set evaporated. You know what I mean? It got Thanos'd away, as it were. And then years later, I found out there was actually another exclusive I didn't have called Flowboarding, which was a pack-in game that only came out in Finland. That one I managed to track down. That one's actually cheap if you can find it. The hard part was finding it, but I got that one. But Warhammer, to this day, still eludes me. But that said, because I saw, like a weird piece of N-Gage promo merch, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for that. So there you go. Now, let's move on to some Japan stuff, shall we? Now, speaking of like weirdo tech, and I swear we'll talk more about games in a second, I picked up some weirdo tech when I was in Japan. It is important to understand right now that the yen is, the Japanese currency, is in a state of decline. One would maybe even call it tanking. And the exchange rate on it to the US dollar is amazing if you are an American being over there right now. So, traditionally speaking, to give you some sense of context, the Japanese like to match the yen to the dollar. And what I mean by that is ideally, historically, 100 yen meant $1. So if to simplify things, you can think of as 1 yen, ideally is 1 American cent. That was the goal for a long time. So much so that if you ever have a 1 yen coin, it's often jokingly referred to as a yenny because it's effectively a penny. That said, that rate didn't stick around. They had, for a time, 8% sales tax, so then 108 to a dollar was ideal. Then they raised their sales tax to 10%. It became 110 yen to a dollar was ideal. Currently, it's about 160 yen to a dollar. In fact, while I was there, I think it even got as high as 167 yen to a dollar, although by the time I was leaving, it was like closer to 157, 58 to a dollar. Now, what does that mean in practical terms? It means that from an American perspective, everything's like 40% off. So if historically I was used to seeing, 2,000 yen, that's 20 bucks. Now 2,000 yen's like $12. That's a pretty substantial haircut, especially coupled with the fact that a lot of stores in Japan will not charge tourists sales tax, or they'll charge it and refund it, which is 10%, as I mentioned before. So in some scenarios, in fact, a lot of scenarios, you're looking at like 50% off of what you think it's gonna be. That is good. So with that mindset, I went into a store called Don Quixote, which is like Walmart on drugs. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It's like a Walmart had a child with like a china shop. You know what I mean? Like it's a cacophony of imagery. I don't know how else to unless you've been in one, can't visualize what I'm saying, but if you have been in one, you're like, oh no, that makes sense. It's just stuff everywhere. It's organized and almost comes off like it isn't. Now, I like going in there because they'll have like, oddball things as far as electronics go, but they'll also have like, random foods and things like that. So for our purposes though, I was just exploring. It's also a store that always does tax-free stuff. So I was like, great, no problem. And I saw something, I was like, okay, this kind of got me. It's kind of like that episode of South Park where they go to Walmart and they're like, you can't stop Walmart because it stops you. You'll always find something on sale that just gets your interest. That's how Don Quixote works, man. And I saw something as I was about to leave, which was these cables. Now, what these cables are, I bought actually 2 of them, 2 packs. And each pack consists of a whole bunch of these. So what's inside is they're basically cables for the purpose of replacing anything USB-C or USB micro or Lightning, which is Apple's thing, and replacing them with this more like this magnetized pinout. So the whole idea is you just kind of plug this into any sort of USB-C device that requires power, like your phone, or USB micro ones, like if you have a controller laying around, something like that. Or if you have, I don't use Apple stuff, so I don't have any of these, but anything you use, like whether it's your laptop or whatever it is, you just replace it with this particular pinout, and then they have a bunch of these cables in there of various shapes and sizes, some different lengths, some with USB-A type of pinhead, or pinout, whatever you want to call it, and then some that are just like a USB-C adapter, which is like what this one is. So it's just different form factors, but as you can see, just kind of like stuff sticking around. It's magnetic. So the idea is once it's plugged into that device, you can just kind of I failed in there. But the idea is that it just magnetically connects to whatever you want, so it's much easier to plug stuff in. Now, I'll be honest. The Lightning element of this, totally useless to me. I don't need that for any reason. USB-C stuff, potentially convenient for some devices, like video game controllers or whatever, if I want a little bit more uniformity. My phone, not so much. I mean, I can do it, but the reason it's not super essential is for things like this. Again, if I want to plug these devices in, these cables don't do data, they only do power, so I don't have as much use for that. Where I cared about it was the USB micro stuff. USB micro is terrible. I'm sure a lot of you recall it. It was what was built into the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers, like that era of USB. Those are awful because those ports are kind of a non-standard design, and as a result, the quality control on them wasn't great, meaning they break a lot. So the less you can plug in and out of them, the better. So basically, anything that's important to me that uses USB micro, this is where this comes in handy. I can plug that in and then just leave it in there. Like I have a set of Beats headphones where I can tell the USB micro port is kind of dying on it. So plug this in there and then I can just, use the magnetic cable all the time. Done. It's never going to break, at least in that regard, for that reason on me, which is awesome. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't some scenarios where the USB-C version isn't of any use. There certainly is, but that was my personal reasoning. And again, these things were originally like, I want to say like 2,000 yen. Again, originally that would have been like 20 bucks, but with the sale, no tax and all that, you're looking at like 10, 12 bucks basically. So I was like, that's amazing. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get 2 packs of that and just kind of future-proof a bunch of stuff. So that's a thing out there, by the way, if you want that. It works on laptops, and the whole thing is it's magnetic, so you can pull away and whatever. So yeah, very cool. Got some other stuff at Don Quixote as well. This is video game related, but also just kind of technological. Like I said, stuff's super cheap right now, so what I ended up doing is I bought 5 micro SD cards. Each one is 16 gigs. And you might be like, what exactly do you need that for? Well, I have a lot of the EverDrives, flash drives like that, that all use micro SD cards where you're just playing like NES games. The entire NES library is like a few megabytes. You know what I mean? It doesn't add up to a whole lot. So a 16 gigabyte flash card is overkill, but this is pretty much the smallest kind you can get now. But I have largely been sharing cards, which gets really irritating. So I was like, you know what? These are like $2 each. I'm just going to buy a few of them. And when I have time, I'll sit down as a project and I'll just be like, okay, here's for the Neo Geo Pocket. Here's for the Atari Lynx. Here's for the Sega Genesis. You get my point. I'm going to do that at some point just to clean all that up. But that was just a me thing. Now let's talk about video games. So these games here, this is just a relatively small pile from Japan. Now there's a reason for that.
Sometimes the holiday is on the cards, but then life goes rogue. Breakups, early baby arrivals, or even an epic hangover. But when you need to cancel, most companies won't take no for an answer. Book with First Choice Flex and cancel 48 hours before traveling and get the cost of your holiday back. What's a bigger flex than that?
Things have gotten out of control.
Come on, let's go, sister. Come on, just let's go, Rodney.
I said there's more pickup videos coming. So these are all the games that came from either not Suragaya Specialty Shop or not Hard Off, which to be fair is a very short list because these are all stores I wouldn't normally go to. I want to just get something out of the way here. There are people, a lot of them, that have this fantasy that I'm going to go to Japan and I'm going to go to Akihabara and I'm going to be accepted in my nerd culture, and that's just the mecca of nerds. Akihabara sucks. I want this to be very clear. Anybody who has been to Japan before, like an old war dog like me who's been there like 20 plus times, or especially the people who actually live in Japan, and I'm talking about gaijin expats who are living there, will all tell you, don't ever go to Akihabara. That place sucks. And it does. It really sucks. Now, if you're super into anime, maybe you'll get something out of it. I'm not into anime at all, so that element of it does nothing for me. So I was only there to look around for video games, and that's how I've always done it historically. But I had gotten to the point where I was like, I was just sick of going there, because the problem with Akihabara is that it has this like Vegas effect where it's just like a spectacle of light and color, and you're like, oh, what's this? What's this? It looks so exciting. That's fine. You can get behind the spectacle. That's fine. But to actually go there for the purpose of shopping is, to be quite frank with you, stupid. Because the people who run those stores know full well that the people going to those stores are tourists. And they skyrocket the prices to an unnatural and insane level. Like, I'll give you some examples. And it's actually gotten worse because in the last year and a half, 2 years or so since I was last in Japan, the Japanese have figured out that retro video games have value and that tourists really want them. Now, back in the day, pre-pandemic, they just didn't understand why anybody would want it as junk. To them, it was literally garbage. Like, the only reason it was staying in stores is because Japan has, like, garbage laws about throwing stuff away. So they would just keep them in stores and be like, I don't know, if we can ever move any of this stuff, it's literally cheaper to do that than to throw it away. That's just how Japan works. But over the course of the pandemic, they kind of started realizing to stay alive, they had to start selling stuff online, and then figured out there was real money coming in from that. And then they figured out all that money was just coming in from stupid tourists and stupid people overseas overpaying for their stuff. So now they've taken that mentality and put it into a single location called Akihabara. And there, the prices are astronomical to the point of absurdity. To give you an example, let's take a super common game like, say, Super Mario Brothers for like the Famicom, a game that you can find in a hard off for like 100 yen. It's common as dirt. There will be stores in Akihabara that will say, retro game, we have retro game, which is always in broken English. And they have like a pitiful little section, and it's like, there's Mario Brothers, and it's like $50 equivalency. And you're supposed to be that, whoa, hey, I remember Mario. That's so cute. It's the original Japanese version. We should get that. You're never gonna find that again. That's got to be rare. That's the clientele that they are appealing to. In fact, I'm jumping the gun a bit. One of the stores I went into, I overheard a conversation that as something of a video game historian made me want to jump over the counter and attack a person, which of course I would never really do, but like nerd rage went full on. I heard a guy talking to his wife, who was Japanese, who didn't really know anything about this. And this guy's like, honey, I know video games, and let me tell you all about them. And he goes, and I swear this was real. You're gonna you prepare everybody. I hope you have something nearby to balance you out, maybe a drink, a smoke, I don't know what you need. But this guy goes, well, honey, the way it really works was Yu Suzuki, he created Mario. And he did that for the PlayStation, and as soon as he did, that's just when the video games started. Like, I would have hit that harder, but I didn't want to break the case. I was just like, how could you get more wrong? Anyway, my point is not that guy said something dumb. It's just that is the intellectual capacity of the average gamer walking around
Round two.
Akihabara, and the stores
Ready,
know that,
go!
and they price everything accordingly. So since you are watching a nerd complain about this kind of thing and talk about video games and junk he bought, you're probably actually into the hobby and actually into finding good deals on stuff and looking for the niche absurd, obscure things. You will not like Akihabara for that reason. If you like it for anime reasons, that's fine, that's different. But for video game reasons, no. Now that was a very long-winded way of saying, yeah, the only time I went over there was to make videos for you guys, which you'll actually see some of. Like I said, the Suragaya video, I went over there. The Hard Off video, I went over there. Just, again, for footage purposes. My travel channel, I went over there for that purpose. But I also went into those stores for one other horrific reason. There was one thing I really wanted to find. And I was like, given that I can't drive anywhere because I didn't have a car, nor would I even be allowed to drive in Japan anyway because I don't have a Japanese license. And it was super hot because it's the dead of summer in July and everything. I was like, I can't do the whole like running to Hard-Offs thing where you walk a mile. Like I would just die from heat exhaustion. I was like, the only concentrated area where there's going to be a bunch of video game stores where I had any shot of finding this thing is Akihabara. So may the gods protect me. And unfortunately, I never found the thing anyway. But I did get a couple of things. It's a very long-winded way of saying that. By the way, I never went to Super Potato, because that store sucks. It is a cacophony of noise and awfulness. Like, if you want to go in there for the museum side of it, great. Occasionally, like once in a blue moon, you might find a good deal at Super Potato from something they just haven't adjusted the price on or something. But that's it. Don't go there to actually, like, this is where all the YouTubers say to go. This is the good game store in Akihabara, dear. So, because then you're that Yu Suzuki made Mario for PlayStation guy. Don't be that guy. Now, let's talk about some games we did pick up. Now, one of the stores I went into was a place called, terrible name, just literally called Retro Game Shop. I mean, that in a sense works because it tells you straight up what it is, but good luck searching for that. I went in there just kind of exploring and seeing like what the options were, looking for the one particular thing I wanted, because I was like, these guys are, there's not too many Japanese who are actually into retro gaming. That's really uncommon, to be completely honest with you. It's really always seen as like a stupid gaijin hobby. The Japanese don't really do that. So this store, to its credit, is run by people that actually are into it, which is, like I said, very rare in Japan. But they're also used to selling to baka gaijin, stupid foreigners, that just want Mario for $50. You know what I'm saying? So I walked around the store looking for that one thing, thinking there was a shot these guys might have it. They didn't have it. Then I went to their like obscure disc console section just to see if I could find anything, and I did. I found, for the FM Towns Marty, a system I don't even own, I found this. This is like a promo disc called something 94 Summer Soft Title 20. It's like 3 discs of like demos and footage and stuff that works on the FM Towns Marty. The FM Towns Marty is the first 5th generation video game console ever produced by a company called Fujitsu, who's still around. It's a computer company from Japan. Alas, I don't own this game console, so this is of no use to me. But the thing is, I never see Marty stuff anywhere. So I was just like, ugh, is it super expensive? Is it cheap? What is it? It was like 1,000 yen, which is only like $6. So I was like, I'm going to get it on that basis alone. Like $6, that's fine. But at the same time, I was like, I bet from their perspective, it's probably worth like $1, and they're going to overinflate to $6. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the mentality there. But I was like, $6, I'm not going to complain. I went ahead to go get it. I will give the store credit on this, though. I went down to go buy it, and so it was run by this Japanese girl and this, like, middle-aged Japanese man. And the Japanese girl clearly didn't speak English, so she starts to go get it together, and she's just, like, a little confused by looking at it. And then she kind of looked at me and realized she couldn't really communicate with me because I'm gaijin, you know, whatever. I'm only going to speak English. So she looks over at her, like, you know, the coworker who clearly spoke better English. And she says something, which I'm pretty sure I knew what she said. And then he just kind of goes, oh. And he turns to me and he just, to be fair, he tried to speak English to me. It was very broken, but I got what he was trying to say. He basically goes, you have Marty? You know, like, basically what he was trying to get across to me is like, hey, Baka Gaijin, this isn't a Nintendo game. This isn't going to work on your PlayStation when you get home, or whatever dumb thing he was expecting me to be like. And he was just basically protecting me from buying like a totally wrong game and then blaming his store. I'm pretty sure that's where that was going. And I don't actually own a Marty, but I understood his concern. So I just said, yes, I own a Marty, because I knew why he was asking it. So I just went, Marty, yeah, no, I have it. And he goes, really? Cool. And then he turns to her and just says something in Japanese, and she goes, okay. Like, they were both shocked that someone would come in, some gaijin would walk in that door who knew what this was and still wanted it. I'm just telling you, again, if you go to Akihabara, there's a good chance that they're going to think you're an idiot because, well, frankly, if you're trying to go there for video games, you probably are. And I know, because I'm Baka Gaijin. I've gone there for that reason. I get it. Anyway, moving on. This is not from Akihabara because the store that's in Akihabara of this chain sucks. There's another chain out there called Mandarake. I've actually shown pickups from it in the past, etc. There's 2 locations to my knowledge. There's one in Nakano, and there's one which is nearish to Shinjuku, and then there's one in Akihabara. The one in the one in Nakano is a very hit or miss store. Like, it knows what it is, it knows the stuff it has, and sometimes it's got that comically highly inflated price, and sometimes it's way under. And you're like, where are they getting these prices? And what I think ends up happening is once they price something out, they never go back to deal with it, meaning they never update it for any reason. So in some cases, the inflation or the alteration of their currency, the devaluing, whatever, suddenly goes from an insane price to, from my perspective, a good price. So that would be what I'm pretty sure happened in this case. For the Neo Geo CD, NAM, 1975. So this game, they were asking 10,000 yen, which is actually decent back when this game was $100. Like, that, back when 10,000 yen was $100. For this game, that's actually a pretty good deal. But because of the exchange rate right now, this was more like $65, which is an insanely good deal for this particular game because it's one of the harder Neo Geo CD games to find. Now, when it comes to the Neo Geo CD, I actually have most of the titles, but I'm not really trying to get a full set for the console just because there's a few on that system that are totally impossible. But, you know, every time I find one that I need where it's like, oh, that's not bad, I can do that. I'll chip away at the list. But that's usually about it. Now, in that same vein, also at Mandarake, I got this, Football Frenzy. This was like 4,000 yen, which back in the day would have been like 40 bucks, but now it's closer to 25. Kind of sucks that you're paying 25 bucks essentially for a Neo Geo, hand egg game, but either way, it was part of the list. And I was like, all right, I'm probably never going to do better than that. So that Mandarake is okay. They had a couple of, well, this is another thing. They had some Dreamcast demo discs. Now, the thing with the Dreamcast is I have the full global set, so I very rarely am like, oh, new Dreamcast stuff, unless it's literally like indie Dreamcast stuff where it's brand new. So, but in Japan, there's this extra layer of something I can look for because in Japan, back at the time when the Dreamcast was relevant, it was very common in Japan for them to give away demo discs for random games with other things. So you could be like, hey, I'm here to pre-order this game. And they're like, thank you for pre-ordering. Here's a demo for a totally different game, or even a demo for that particular game. Or you could pick up a brand new game like, hey, I came in to buy the new release. And they're like, oh, thank you. Here, as a bonus, here's this demo for a totally different game. So it's kind of unclear to us in the Dreamcast community how many of these were produced, how many have ever been dumped online, et cetera, because there's not really good any archiving of how many there are. So every time I'm there, I kind of thumb through the Dreamcast stuff, just kind of hoping to find as many as I can and pick up any ones that I don't already have. Because the other benefit to it is nobody cares about those. Those are super cheap, and they will remain that way because the store isn't stupid. Even your like lesser known store, like the stores that pay less attention to what an item is, like as much as I love a hard off, they're not usually the best at knowing specifically what an item is, which is actually kind of to your benefit because they don't always really care. But even in those stores, they understand by looking at it, it says not for sale, demo disc, all that sort of stuff. So they're just like, oh, this is not of any real value. So 500 yen, just get rid of it. 500 yen is like $3. So some examples, the 2 that I got at Mandarake, this is Test Operation Disc for Frame Gride, which was a Japanese-only Dreamcast exclusive like mech game. This game is actually very good, and it has been fan-translated since then, so you can actually play this in English now if you have like an ODE Dreamcast with like a mode or a GDMU or something like that. There's a full English version of the real game on there, but as a bonus for me, I got the Test Operation Disc. And then we also have Capcom versus SNK Millionaire Fight 2000. Same deal, Mandarake, just like, cheap demo disc. They don't really care. I like the demo discs. What can I say? It's cool to be able to find something new for the Dreamcast, and just honestly, the preservationist in me is just like, that's really cool. I want to make sure that those are safe and online somewhere, probably. But the reason that I included that in the, shall we say, Akihabara section is there is also an Akihabara location of Mandarake. That store is terrible. Like, you go in there and you will be impressed instantly by what you see. You'll be like, wow, that glass case is full of like all the things I came to Japan for. That's like all the rare games I want. Look at this. There's an entire like row of Dreamcats. There's an entire row of Saturn. Like, I'm so excited. This is so amazing. Until you pull out any one of the games and start looking at the prices and be like, this is like more than it would cost to buy it on eBay and have it shipped to me from home. Like, there was no reason for me to come to Japan at all to buy anything in that store. That store truly is, hey, how stupid do you think these gaijin are? How baka are they? Probably really baka. Oh, yep, here they are. They're all buying the dumb stuff. He's like, oh, look at that. You never find the Mario games. Those are really hard to find there, Molly. So I have to get it for my collection, don't I? Shut up. Stop going to Mandarake. Stop going to Akihabara. But the last nail in the coffin for Akihabara.
Go easy on you.
I went to a store called Friends. Now, Friends was probably the only good store in Akihabara.
Go!
I say was, for a very specific reason. At the time you were watching this, it's probably the very beginning of August 2024. They are shutting down at the end of August 2024. It's their last month in operation. So if you're in Japan or going there, go, because they're going to be gone soon. The thing that sucks about that store is, like, the reason it was so good is because it was in Akihabara, little side adjacent, and it was so nondescript. It's not like the other stores where it's all flashy and like, here, we have retro games. There was a single little sign outside the store, entirely in Japanese. The only thing in was the word friend, which, as a casual like reader, just makes you go, are my friends up there? Like, I don't know what am I looking at? And there's just a picture of Yoshi drawn. So I was like, you would never really think that there's upstairs, there's like hidden this like really good video game. This video game, this store was so good that I would go in there knowing that they charge sales tax, you can't get the tax-free thing in there, and that they were cash only. Now, if you know anything about me, I hate using cash, especially in other countries, just because you get left over with a lot of worthless coins, especially, that you don't have any use for. So I try to avoid cash at all possibilities. I like my money to be digital, particularly in credit digital, not like crypto or anything. But that's how good this store is on prices, comfortability, and knowledge. It's run by this elderly couple that really seems to know their stuff. They had a lot of obscure things. Like, there was so many more things I would have gotten there, but because they were cash only, it also severely limited what I could even get, just because the pragmatism of having to go out and get more cash and everything, it just wasn't going to happen. So I had to use what was realistically available to me. But like, keep in mind, this store was the only one I have ever found that had an FM Towns Marty section. Like just a bunch of games for that system. And I couldn't get any of them just because I didn't have enough cash on me. Which is another reason I hate cash. Like, I can get the money, but it's credit. It's my bank account. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have it in paper money at the moment. But anyway, that's just me complaining. So I did get 2 games from there that I could budget with what I had on me. One for the Neo Geo CD is Super Sidekicks. This is a soccer game. There were 3 of these on the Neo Geo CD. I already have the second one. The second one seems to be the most common one, and the first one seems to be a lot more expensive. However, they seem to have mispriced this as the second one because it was like a third of what it should have cost. That or Friends just doesn't suck. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to judge. But either way, I was happy to get that and support them, even though they're not going to be there anymore. And then the other thing I got was a Dreamcast disc that I was like, wow, I've never had the opportunity to buy that before. I've never even seen it. This is the Regulation 7 disc. This requires a little bit of a story. There is a special edition of the Dreamcast called the Regulation 7 Dreamcast. Or R7 Dreamcast, if you want to think of it that way. I don't have it. It's a black console that has like the R7 logo on it, same logo that's on this disc. And the whole idea is, and this was a true Sega being...
It was a really enlightening experience, I would say.
The experience was thrilling. It was a great opportunity to learn more about different birds that maybe I wasn't aware of.
Sega type of thing. There is a law in Japan referred to as Regulation 7 that is about gambling. Now, I'm no expert on this law, But basically, in Japan, gambling is illegal unless you kind of go through a loophole. So it's like, it's illegal to place a direct bet. However, it's not illegal to play a video game and then for someone to pay you based on the results of that video game and your performance. You know what I mean? Like, you're just adding a step. So Sega decided to embrace this and literally make a version of the Dreamcast called the Regulation 7 Dreamcast that they sold specifically to karaoke bars and parlors and casinos and stuff like that. Well, parlor casinos, if you want to think of it, because casinos in the traditional sense wouldn't be legal. Where they just had that console in there with this special software. This software would connect online to a server that Sega had, so you, in the parlor, could go online and play your game, be like, oh, I'm placing my bets on this. Oh, that's funny. In the simulation of the game, I guess I won. And then the parlor goes, oh, what a good job. You won that game. You know what? You've earned a tip for maybe the exact amount you pretended to bet on. Regulation 7. I just love Sega for legally making a device to help you legally break the law. So that version of the console I don't have, and I figure if I ever do find it, it probably won't have this software with it, because this was not sold to anything. Like, it was packed in with that system, which was only sold to, like, parlors and stuff. So I think I have a better chance of finding the console by itself. Anyway, so it was just cool to get that. Totally useless disc now, but cool. So that ends the video games in Japan, at least until separate videos. But it's not the end of stuff there. Another person I was hanging out with, I'm a big Shenmue fan. You guys might have noticed. So if you ever played Shenmue 1, 2, you might be familiar with this man. I was hanging out with a guy named Eric Kelso. He voiced Fukusan, Guizhang in Shenmue 1. He also voiced Ren in Shenmue 2. And those who are not Shenmue fans, he voices Jackie in Virtua Fighter. He voices Captain Falcon in some of the F-Zero games. He's just a guy who lives in Japan. He's a friend of mine. And so we were hanging out with him. We did dinner a few times. I even crashed at his place for a night. And he just gave me some stuff. He's like, here's a signed copy of Shenmue World. Shenmue World is a promo magazine that James Brown and the Shenmue Dojo compiled together with a bunch of Shenmue fans. It has articles about what's going on with Shenmue, the history of it, that kind of thing. And it has a bunch of extra stuff. And I've actually shown this in the past because I already have a copy of this. And then he just signed it. So we may be giving this away to a Shenmue fan who wants an autographed copy, because, like, I don't necessarily need another one. But that was very cool of him to do. He also just threw in a copy of his book called Ericisms, which is just a bunch of things he has written, little soliloquies and poems and things. It's written in multiple languages, actually. So, yeah, very cool. Thank you, Eric. And then he gave me, like, this dossier, if you will, of a bunch of signed photos of him and various characters, like an autographed photo of Guizhang, autographed photo of Ren, autographed photo of Fukusan, Jackie. I think that's Paul from Tekken. I guess he voices Paul from Tekken. Captain Falcon, as I said, and then just photos of himself. So yeah, stuff like that. And then like one big one that has all those characters. I've told him in the past, man, like if he came to he's originally from the US, but he hasn't lived here for like 40 years. But I told him, like, dude, if you ever wanted to do like retro game conventions in the US, like you'd make a killing. People would love, like, those are some iconic video game characters. And he's just like, nah, I'm good staying in Japan. So yeah, anyway, very cool to hang out with him again as always. So thank you very much to Eric. Now that's the end of Japan for now. I promise you there are videos coming up that you will enjoy, not only on this channel, but on the travel channel if you want to watch them. But it wasn't the end of stuff, as you can see. I got caught in that CrowdStrike thing, you know, that whole thing where every computer in the world went nuts for a few days, whatever. I actually got caught coming back to Chicago. My route was ridiculous. I'm not even going to tell the whole story, but basically I went from Tokyo, Haneda to New York, or Newark more accurately, got stuck there because of the incompetence of TSA and how Newark operates. The TSA, I know I've got people who work for TSA. I'm not blaming you specifically. Just your stupid process of screening bags and taking everything out of them, rewrapping all my items in tape, and then leaving me one of those notes, and then forcing me to miss my flight because of how long you took to do that. That subsect of the TSA, I'm not a fan of that one. The same one that also probably took my Resident Evil Claire Dreamcast controller all those years ago. Anyway, so I missed my flight. And United Airlines was very cool about it. They're like, yeah, at this time of the day, there's not really many options to get you back to Chicago except to send you to, this is going to sound ridiculous, from New York to Las Vegas. And then at midnight, once you get to Vegas, there's a flight to Chicago. So I was like, all right, fine. So I flew to Vegas. And then the CrowdStrike thing happened and I got stuck in Vegas for a couple days. Whatever. So while I was in Vegas, I got to hang out with a couple of people in my Discord because I wasn't expecting to be there at all. So I went to my Discord. And I was like, who's in Vegas? I'm stuck. And by coincidence, two of them were. A guy named Megalink, who originally lives out in Boston, or New Hampshire, somewhere on the East Coast, New England area. Pretty sure it's actually New Hampshire, but he goes to Boston a lot. If you know that area, it's very small, so it's whatever. And then Sarumaru, who lives in Vegas. Sarumaru, you guys would know, because he's a retro game developer. He's made most well-known for a game called FX Unit Yuki, the Henshin engine, which is available on PC Engine, TurboGrafx. I think there's a PC Engine CD version. There's obviously a Dreamcast version. I've actually done a video on it. And it's been on other platforms as well. So I got to hang out with them. And there's going to be a whole Las Vegas adventure. We went to a whole bunch of game stores. But, you know, Sarumaru being the good guy that he is, he just gave me stuff. He's an art designer. So he actually gave me these. He gave me some keychains, basically, for the Dreamcast that he designed it. I mean, they're clearly Dreamcast inspired, even though they're not officially licensed or anything. But that was cool of him to do, so thank you. And he also gave me, for the aforementioned FX Unit Yuki, this is a music CD of that game, just, you know, with 22 songs. So thank you very much for that. But, as I said, we did a video game adventure. We went to a whole bunch of stores and stuff. You keep in mind, I had just spent a whole bunch of money in Japan. I really wasn't looking to do that. I just wanted to get home. But it was still fun to go on the adventure. And I don't really buy that much American stuff. Like I said, this is kind of a rarity. I did find one thing, though, on that adventure. And I was like, that's dumb. And it's part of the journey. Let's just do it. For the Atari 5200. Yes, you heard that right. The Atari 5200. I picked up a game called Blueprint. I knew I didn't have it immediately just because of the way the cart looks. I think it's like one of the few, I'm not super familiar with the Atari 5200 library, to be fair. I think it's one of the few games that was like not in a standard Atari designed cart. It was totally worthless. It was like $5. It was like really nothing to it. But I was like, that's perfectly emblematic of everything right now. I'm just going to get something weird at the store and move on with my day. But yeah, there'll be a whole big Vegas journey out there along with their pickups, which frankly were more interesting than mine. But that said, I still got that, so that was cool. Now, next up, let's talk a little more California. I know, I kind of saved it. There was some stuff at the beginning from California I hadn't included. Jared, who I mentioned before, and his store, when we were in there, he was just kind of like, he was slightly frustrated because he had like two big boxes of the same thing, which was these cases. This is actually a case specifically designed for the PlayStation Portal, like that controller with the screen in it. And he's like, do you want one? I was like, I don't even own a PlayStation Portal. He's like, just take one. I can't, I'm never gonna be able to sell these. And I was like, all right. Then I very quickly came up with a use for it. My buddy Jesse, who lives out there, he and I did a trade years ago where I gave him something and I was just, this is pre-pandemic. Like this goes back a minute. So I had this device for him that I don't even remember what it was now, to be honest with you, but I gave him something and we had agreed that he was gonna trade me this one thing once he had gotten all the parts and he kind of got it all together. That time finally came on this trip. And just as a matter of perfect coincidence, it fits brilliantly in this case. So inside, I reveal unto you an Atari Lynx Model 1. But not just any Atari Lynx Model 1. He has actually gone ahead and put a custom LCD screen in it, like the whole updated thing. And so this thing works flawlessly. I'm going to do a whole video on this at some point just because the work on this was beautifully done and it's just really cool. But yeah, it fits almost perfectly into this PlayStation Portal case. So I was like, great, that's a great way to do it. And as a bonus to that, Jesse actually threw this in. This is an AC adapter for the Lynx, new old stock. If you look on the side, 9 volts, says $1.95. You're like, oh, cool. So he bought like 100 of these, like, 20 years ago. No, I'm not going to reveal where, but he actually found a store somewhere in the valley, in the Bay Area of San Francisco, some like Goodwill-like store that just has tons of these in stock, and that's their own writing on the store. So he still goes in there. He's like, every time I go in there, I buy like 4 or 5 of them because he's like, they're of potential future use. And so in this case, he's just like, here, take one because I have way too many. So it'll go with your system perfectly. So huge shout out to Jesse. Thank you very much. Now, to complete our little package sandwich, as I called it, and just to round out the video here, we have one last thing. This comes from StoneAgeGamer.com. And full disclosure, they sent this stuff to me for free for the purposes of review. And some of this will be getting its own videos. You'll just see. But this was cool of them. This just kind of came in like, as I'm recording this literally came in today, and I wasn't really expecting this. They just kind of messaged me, and they're like, hey, we're going to send you some stuff. And I was like, okay, if you get it here in time, I can throw it in the video. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. So here it is. Let's go ahead and open it up, and I'll just show you really quickly what we've got going on here. It might take me a second to kind of organize here. So here's like a long list of the items. We have our little popcorn bits. I'm going to make a mess here, I guess. So the first thing up here we're going to talk about is this. This is the MemCard Pro 2 for the PlayStation 2. I'm going to do a separate video on this. I did one for the first one, the MemCard Pro 1 for the PS1. The basic idea with this is it's like a memory card that actually supports, well, micro SD cards, so perfect that I bought more of those. And then it basically has the potential to create like infinite saves. So the PlayStation 2, notoriously, its memory cards are just not quite big enough for the amount of games on it. Same with, to be fair, with a lot of consoles from that era. But they've done a new memory card now that basically eliminates the need to ever have to deal with that again. So I'm going to do a video on that at some point. They threw in a drink cozy. That's just a nice little bonus. They didn't have to do that. They also threw in some of these. Let's make sure I've got all of them lined up here. I think that's all of them. Yes. So this is, well, actually, I better be sure what this is before I go too far with it. I think this is, okay, no, yes, okay, that is part of this. So I'm not a music guy. Full disclosure. In fact, I'm so bad at anything musically related, while I was in Japan, I was formally banned from ever participating in karaoke ever again for the rest of my life. That's true. That happened. You can see that on my travel channel when that video goes out. But that's my point. I'm not very good with music. But that said, there is something that I'm not super familiar with. I guess it's I don't know if it's a band or a concept, but there's this thing called Remute, where it's basically the distribution of music specifically for game consoles. It's like an album that's being distributed on game consoles. And even that might be wrong. Like I'm telling you, music is not my wheelhouse. But as a result, they sent me these. So basically, like this board here, this is actually Remute, like a music album specifically designed for the Commodore 64, which is hilarious because I actually, oddly enough, don't own a Commodore 64. So this is actually the only piece of Commodore 64 anything I own. But if I look on the back here, it's got songs. Yeah, Remute to the Bone, Bubblehead. I can't read all of them because there's a sticker in front of it. But if I took it apart, I'm sure I could. But yeah, To the Bone, the album To the Bone for the Commodore 64. One for the Atari Jaguar called Remute, There Is Hope. So I guess you just pop this in the Jaguar and you could listen to the music on it. We've also got for the PC Engine CD, Remute Death Style, which has a whole bunch of songs on it, obviously. And then finally, for the 3DO, Remute 5D? Is it 5D or 3D? Honestly, I literally cannot read that font. It says 3D in a different font on the inside, so it's Remute 3D. 5D would have been a whole different marketing experience, I suppose. But yeah, so these discs aren't just like the artwork of the 3DO or whatever. Like this will actually work in a 3DO and like will be enhanced visually. Like obviously the Jaguar card's very particular, but like the CD ones, I think they'll function as music CDs, but if you put them in those particular game consoles, they do more, which is kind of the whole point. So huge shout out to Stone Age Gamer for that. We have a couple other things as well. These two things will be getting a video, as will this. We'll start with this one. This is a long game video. This is going to take me a while. This is basically for the Virtual Boy. Now, if you've ever used the Virtual Boy, there is a known issue with it where over time the basically the screen stops functioning properly. I don't know exactly why it is. It just kind of disconnects, I guess. And so the screen starts flickering and eventually does like these red lines or whatever. I don't know if this is who did it. Sega Sonic fan, I guess, designed a replacement board that you can install.
Round one.
Permanently
Ready,
solves that problem.
go!
And never have to deal with this again. There's a little mount piece and then use the board and all that. The thing is, this is way beyond my skill set. So Jesse, who did the Atari Lynx screen mod, he said he would do this.
Excellent.
I don't know when. It could literally, I hope it's not years, but it could take a minute before we get that one done. But look forward to it sometime. He was saying, oh, Adam, is your Virtual Boy broken? Not really, no, mine works fine. But I have noticed occasionally in some games it does that. Most of the time it doesn't, but since it's doing it in some games, I've been informed it's inevitably going to go. So we might as well get out in front of it and do it the right way. We got that. So stay tuned on eventual Virtual Boy video. And the last thing we have is also get its own video. We have two devices, one for the Dreamcast and one for the Neo Geo AES/Neo Geo CD. The Dreamcast one is called the Retro Time DC adapter, and it's by 8-Bit Mods, as is the card device. The other one by Humble Bazooka is called the Neo BT. Same basic concept, but different companies. Basically, they're dongles you plug into the Dreamcast and the Neo Geo ABS/CD respectively, and then you can link up a Bluetooth-compatible controller with them. Don't quote me on this, but I think the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is one of them. At some point, I will sit down and do a video where I kind of test these all out and show it in action and all that kind of stuff with all the different versions. So
Knockout!
the Neo Geo AES, the CD. There's the Slim, there's the top loader, and then
Ready,
the CDZ.
go!
As well as just a standard Dreamcast, because the Dreamcast didn't have any oddities when it came to that kind of thing. I'll try them all out. We'll make a video about it. It'll be fun. But yeah, so huge shout out to Stone Age Gamer for that. So yes, long video finally wrapping up. As I said, stay tuned. There will be more pickups videos and more adventure videos. There's gonna be a lot of content this month. But yeah.
Round 5. Ready, go! Knockout!
Yes, thank you very much to Stone Age Gamer. Thank you to Jared. Thank you to Jesse. Thank you to Sarumaro. Thank you to Eric. And thank you to the guys over at MoveSpeed. And thank you guys very much for watching. As always, if you could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't done that before, and check out all my social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, as of course the travel channel. I appreciate the support on all those platforms, especially things like the travel channel and Patreon. That really is super appreciated. But yes, regardless if you're just going to sit here and like the video or watch it at least, I appreciate you. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.
Round 1. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 2. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 3. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 1. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 2. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 3. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 4. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 5. Ready, go! Knockout!
Oh shit! Yeah.
I saw that, Rip. I saw that.
If you're watching that, feel free to clip it or not clip it. I don't know anymore.
Dive in for an attack.
What? She killed herself. She got scared. She flinched.
Round one. Ready, go! Knockout! Round two. Ready, go! Knockout! Round three. Ready, go! Excellent! 時は来たれり。行くぞ Round 1 Ready Go! Excellent! Round 2 Ready Go! Excellent! Round 3 Ready Go! Excellent!
Hmm, ザコンが。
加減支払んといて遅れやす。
Round 1 Ready Go! Ring out! Round 2 Ready Go!
Hey, Lightwing.
Knockout!
The red top that I needed. For some reason, wouldn't let me change it to red. It was the only
Round
setting.
3 Ready Go!
You did.
Well,
Using VF.
Knockout!
Also GG.
I didn't get my super
Round
ultra
4
today.
Ready Go!
let me run you out. Sure, we can get some down quick start. That's it.
Knockout!
There's some cherry chips, man.
You.
いかがかな
Chipotle will have your head.
Yeah. Chipotle.
I need to zoom in. Why is it getting terrible? Hey, Brickster.
I'll show you what combat's all about.
So yeah, Sensei. Lightwing Dragon
Round 1 Ready Go!
Round two.
one.
Knockout.
Why is it like a falcon?
Keep flying, man.
The
Round
national
two.
animal opponent.
Ready?
I mean, is
Go!
Let's have a little quick Google. On the phone, not on. I can't. At the same time. National opponent or
You know the high one. About to find out.
the European
Knockout.
bison.
The wood
Zubor
bison.
or Wyson. So the
Round three.
European wood bison.
Ready?
W
Go!
bison, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. The bison. The bison is the national animal of Finland. But they give her a bird.
Stream this is.
Knockout. Round four. Ready?
We're not gonna
Go!
Jimmy's coming. Jimmy's coming.
You don't know that.
Oh, nice.
See, you don't need. the national animal of
Knockout. Round five. Ready? Go!
First beat up
Oh, nice parry.
Good.
Got some damage in everything there.
Count it. Oh, that'll even out. I think the amount of health that you lose plus the health that Ryan gains
Knockout.
should tie it up.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, that's even health.
Oh.
Mission
Don't
accomplished.
make it right.
Counter to me.
That's right. It's 2-2. It's good. It's good.
Fun around.
Ooh.
You're unlucky ifs.
GG.
You're lucky you're not hit. You're lucky. Oh, my finger hurts. I sprained my finger a week ago. I still haven't recovered.
big time player is here. Round one. Ready?
Got you,
Go!
One thing I don't need for Tekken.
Knockout.